Why build everything from scratch? That idea originally came from watching the Handmade Hero. The only thing that's happening in the main thread is building the UI. I will batch most of my allocations into large pools. I use memory arenas for that. Clicking on things should be instant. Opening tabs or splitting panes should be instant. I will occasionally just turn off the internet. Like I will literally unplug the cable.
Hello everyone and welcome to Wookash Podcast. This time I'm joined by Vjekoslav, who made Pallet, blazingly fast file explorer for Windows. It's written in C, it has custom data structures, and Vjekoslav designed and implemented entire UI library from scratch just for this project, so to make it perfect. So if you're interested how to make complex programs like that from scratch, join us. First, tell me, what's wrong with explorer.exe so that you decided to write Pallet?
Oof. How much time do we have for this talk? I guess number one, obviously, and the main reason I started all of this is speed, or in the case of File Explorer, it's actually slowness. And it's gotten so bad that it's barely usable, even for very basic operations. So just to give you some context, my first Windows version I ever used at my home PC was Windows XP. And that was somewhere around 2002. I think I had Pentium 3 or 4. I can't remember anymore. But anyway, it was single-threaded 2 gigahertz processor. I think I had like 128 megs of RAM, and I don't even remember which GPU. So it was relatively weak PC compared to today's standards. And yes, I had HDD, not SSD. So at that time, when you started searching something, it had a small animation of a search dog. I don't know if you remember that, but this dog happily woofing when it found something.
Yeah.
And do you remember that?
There was this.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't blazingly fast, but it was reasonably fast, and it returned results. So fast forward 20 years later, and I feel like File Explorer in Windows 11 is slower and more sluggish on my Ryzen 7 with M2 SSD. I honestly can't remember the last time I even tried searching anything with it. I just accepted the fact that it's broken. So instead I use other file managers or utilities to search. So I think that alone was probably enough reason to start working on alternative. Other than that, it's almost exact same program. It was 20 years ago, so there has been hardly any improvements or innovations. I think that Casey made a joke not long ago showing File Explorer window with a huge toolbar at the top, taking a significant portion of the screen. And it had buttons like burn to disk and fax and stuff like that, like buttons that no one is using anymore. And I think that Windows 11 was the first major version where they actually tried to clean that stuff up to some extent. But they also got some major pushback for hiding too much from the user, such as truncated context menu. You probably know that if you're using Windows 11. It took them like forever to add tab support, and it's still glitchy. I don't know. Do you want me to continue? I can say a lot about File Explorer, like panels and split. Forget about it. Globally searching all commands, none of that. Like small quality of life improvements, like interactive batch renaming, or maybe better visualization of some folder hierarchies and stuff like that. So none of that is there. And you would think that a multi-billion-dollar company could improve the most basic stuff for the basic component of their OS, but they don't. I don't know why. I don't know. My best estimate was when I watched the video from the Casey about the Conway's law. So I guess it's just decades of different teams working on various parts of the program, and they essentially cripple it for any further development.
The Conway's law, meaning that you ship your organization to the client, right? Like
yeah, and because the program is so old at this point, so many teams iterated on it that half of the people probably don't know what parts, even which parts of the code mean something. I guess maybe that's the reason why they started from scratch in Windows 11. I don't know, but somehow it's gotten even worse there. So I don't know how they do that. I really don't.
Okay, let me step back a little bit and let me ask you about your experience and maybe education. How did you get to the place where you're at in terms of C programming? What did you use to learn? Who did you learn from? How did you assemble all the experience you have now?
Yeah, sure. So I started programming somewhere in the high school, maybe when I was 15. So not that early as some other folks. And C++ was actually my first language. It's the first language they taught us there. And I can't say I was productive programmer during that time. I mostly wrote toy programs in console. I think I tried making a textual RPG at the time, something like that. But yeah, I also remember that I tried to read 1,000-page book about C++ a couple of times, and I never finished it. Like I just never finished it. So yeah, most of my free time in high school was spent playing video games, which actually it played important role later in starting my career. So it wasn't until college that I started taking programming more seriously. I attended the University of Applied Science in Zagreb, which lasted 5 or 6 years. Um, and I was exposed to a lot of technologies there,
Okay.
but at the very basic level. The material we were taught ranged from various programming languages like C and C++, and later Java and .NET. They were also taught us Linux and databases. We had a couple of classes on data structures and algorithms. But yeah, also there was strong emphasis on learning best practices such as object-oriented programming and stuff like that. So it was somewhere maybe mid college that things started becoming really interesting for me. I began making actual video games at that time in Flash with my
Nice.
friend, and we actually started earning some money from it.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so that was nice. This was around uh, 2010, something like that.
Okay.
So Flash games were still very prevalent at that time, before Apple killed it. Um, and the nice thing about Flash was that you could quickly drop some sprites and write a couple of lines of code to move them around, and that was nice. So after a while, two more friends joined us, and we started making more and more of these games. And it was quite some couple of publisher approached us to make games for them. Uh, Most of the games we made at that time were point and click escape the room type of games. I don't know if you ever play those.
Okay. Like you find
Yeah,
the objects by clicking and then you use them to
yeah,
escape.
you have to yeah, you have to exit the room. That's the main goal. And so we actually ended up founding a company while still in college. Uh,
Nice.
this was also the time when smartphones were really starting to take off. So we began porting our existing games to Android and iPhones. We used Adobe Air at that time, and after that we transitioned to Unity. And yeah, our company grew, and our games became even more ambitious. Probably the two most famous or known franchises on mobile phones that we made at that time were Faraway and Birdcage series. And just one cool thing, the Birdcage was installed on stock iPhones in their retail stores. So that was
Really?
quite an accomplishment for us. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
And the last game I worked on in that company was Escape Simulator. Maybe you heard of it.
Yeah.
And that game became the company's biggest success when it hit Steam in what was 2021, I think. And shortly after that, I left that company for some personal reasons. And yeah, after that, I faced with some tough life decision. Should I start a new company from scratch, or should I just search for a job? I don't know. I had three small kids at that time, and I talked to my wife. She gave me her full support. So yeah, I just went with it. The only side project I had at the time was a file explorer written in C, and it didn't have much functionality. The main reason it existed at all was to serve as some side project where I could experiment with new technical ideas, which I learned from Handmade Hero at that time, which I was still following. So I spent a few weeks trying to download every existing file manager for Windows. I was trying them out, writing some notes, and by that time, I was already a Total Commander user for maybe 5 or 6 years, something like that. Um, so after a thoughtful consideration, I just decided to give it a go. Um, what really attracted me to a file manager from a business perspective was that it was such a ubiquitous core component of each user's machine. So it seemed like a great marketing opportunity for me. At the same time, all existing file managers were already decades old, and they were showing that. So I mean, they were in most aspects they were better than File Explorer, but I didn't quite like them, so I just decided to give it a go.
What about the business side? Because like the File Explorer by default on Windows is free. So then you need to, like, if you want to make a business and profit, you need people to pay for it. So then you need to make a case for paying what other people can have for free, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If I didn't think that was plausible scenario, I would probably not even start it. But there were already so many file explorers on the market, and people were obviously buying them because they existed. So I figured if I can make something even better than those, I will find my market.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
When did you then learn C? Apart from Handmade Hero, you were working in Unity, so C sharp. So where did you
Yeah.
learn C actually?
So I actually learned it. So I had some background from the high school and from the
Yeah.
college, but I was learning it on the side while I was still in my old company, while I was following Handmade Hero. And we actually applied a lot of that knowledge from the Handmade Hero even in the context of C Sharp and .NET and Unity. So a lot of that knowledge was actually quite useful for us.
Okay. In
Yeah,
what way?
yeah.
What did you apply?
So the first thing first, we got rid of most of the object-oriented code, and people ask me how do you do that in Unity and in C Sharp where everything is around classes. So we had to boot up our game. We had one what was it called, Unity
Game
mono
object.
behavior.
Game
Yeah,
object. Yeah.
yeah, one
Mono
game object
behavior.
with
Yeah.
with mono behavior attached to it, and we actually had only one, and the whole logic was written in that one script, or it was split up across a couple of files, but it was in the same class. So
Yeah.
we actually didn't use the traditional approach which was recommended by the Unity documentation, and it actually proved quite well for us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice. I heard that like companies do that. They usually don't want to share this
yeah,
information.
yeah,
But yeah, that's a strategy to like avoid all of the updates and spamming mono
yeah,
behaviors in your
yeah,
project, just to have one that will just do the work. And okay,
yeah.
nice. Nice. Can we go back to File Pilot and tell me a little bit about the design goals? When you were starting out, what did you want it to do apart from it being fast? How did you want it to for it to be better than alternatives?
Okay, so File Pilot had five major core design rules, and I tried to apply those to every part of the program during development. So those are speed, modern UI, simplicity, personalization, and I wanted a small and standalone executable.
Okay.
So okay, without a doubt, speed is probably the number one selling point of File Pilot, which is actually quite strange thing to say in 2025. One would think that speed isn't a feature, but something that should be a given. But unfortunately, in today's landscape, that's not the case. And it's often actually dismissed in favor of other aspects like, I don't know, feature count or portability or short development cycles and stuff like that. And obviously, I disagree with all of that because I wouldn't have written File Pilot from scratch the way I did. And it actually bothers me at some point that developers and companies treat this as mutually exclusive, as if speed and functionality cannot coexist. And that's just a strange concept to me. But yeah. And when I say speed, I don't mean only file operations, obviously file operations too, but I mean like the whole ecosystem, the whole UI. Clicking on things should be instant. Opening tabs or splitting panes should be instant. Loading thumbnails or previewing file contents should be instant, and stuff like that. And all this together created a coherent and pleasant experience. And that's probably number one compliment I receive when people try File Pilot. They are baffled by the speed and responsiveness of the UI, even to the point of confusion. I guess their expectation is just that low. I don't know what else to say. So that's speed. And that's number one. So the second design goal was modern and minimal UI. And I would at that front, I would say that there has been many small and gradual improvements in UI design across various applications over the last few decades. And I've tried to apply those that make sense in the context of File Explorer. The two applications that served as my main sources of inspirations were Sublime Text in the area of text editor and Obsidian in the area of note taking. Okay. A great example of this is exposing all commands through a command palette while minimizing the actual while minimizing the space for actual content, which is, in my view, the most important part. You shouldn't have to stare at the toolbar all the time, at the toolbar that takes like third of your window or something.
When you say command palette, you mean like a list of the
a list of the commands. A list of the all commands that you can trigger at any point. Okay. And they are searchable. You can change their hotkeys and stuff like that. Okay. Obviously, the command palette is not the only way to access those commands, but it's a nice and convenient way to have a place where you can do that. And that's just something that a lot of modern development tools started doing it. So the third one is simplicity. And this is probably the toughest one because good design is all about simplicity, if you ask me. So I wanted a clean UX and clean and simple while still providing powerful features that you could summon when needed. A great example of that would probably be batch renaming, which in my opinion can eliminate a lot of complex UI that is usually cluttered with I don't know, toggles and settings and stuff like that. Batch renaming is a lot more natural to work with, if you ask me. So that's simplicity. What else did I say? Personalization. So that was the fourth design goal was personalization. And I'm talking about fonts and colors and spacing and turning off animations and stuff like that. Again, this is one of the trickier parts because most people, especially user, think this is not the case. So in my view, you as a developer should decide on the most obvious and core aspects rather than dumping every decision onto the user. And this is what some applications do. They have like huge options window when you can tweak every little thing. Like that to me is an example of program which doesn't have strong design, because you shouldn't have to dump everything onto the user. You should have a strong design, and you only want to allow the users to change things that make sense. So it's like you have to find a good sweet spot for that, I would say.
So let me recap that. So you would say that the core design should be made by the program itself, And then
Yeah.
the personalized parts exposed for personalization would be which parts? How would you identify what should be personalized then?
So those parts are usually subjective. So like which font do you use or which color theme do you use? So these things rarely affect like the general usage of the program. I mean, you could argue that bad color palette could damage how you use the program, but obviously I mean like stuff like do you want to have animations or not, uh, like changing the hotkeys, and stuff like so the stuff that doesn't break the core overall design of the program. But you still so you want to find a sweet spot. You want to find um, settings that would make user happy about changing them, but you don't want to expose everything to them.
Okay.
So that's why I said I think that's really hard to nail.
So
It's not easy.
you don't want to expose the design. Like you want to do the design of the program,
Yeah,
how it should work, and then let's say only the around the edges in terms of
yeah,
personalization. But like the design, I as a user wouldn't be able to like influence the core design of the how things should be searched, for example.
yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
That's
And
yeah.
then the fifth one was
The fifth one was just I wanted to have a small executable, and I wanted to be a standalone. So I wanted it so you can take executable, put it anywhere on your disk, and you should be able to run it. And yeah, some people told me that users don't care if your program is 2 MB or 2 GB, as long as it works. And I disagree with that, obviously. So the point isn't the actual size of the program, it's the complexity pushed onto your product, which is then reflected in a huge executable size and tons of DLLs that you pulled in as dependencies. So just to give you an example, how many people approached me and said, when I clicked install and it booted instantly. Like people do care about small things like that. They just don't realize they shouldn't have to wait like 5 minutes for program to install on their machine, and not to mention all the extra junk it installs, and it often leaves that behind after you remove the program. So I think that was also very important for me to have a small executable which reflects the simple and from scratch design of my program.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Paint the picture how File Pilot and in general File Explorer works. Like what are the subsystems underneath? Like what is the indexing part? Like how things interact with the disk and like understand how things are changed on the disk and stuff like that. So like paint a high level overview of what's going on.
Okay, sure. So I can't speak for File Explorer, but I can speak for how File Pilot does it. Yeah. So the actual core of the algorithm, so the code that indexes all the files is actually fairly small. I think it's maybe a couple hundreds of lines of code. So that doesn't include the threading, the memory management, and the strings and all the underlying code that it needs to have. But the core algorithm is only a couple of hundreds of lines of code. So the way that File Palette currently work is very simplistic and in straightforward way. So it just indexes everything you need on demand and keeps it in memory while the folder is open. It actually also caches that data for a while to allow you a smooth experience when you navigate fast between that directories, so it doesn't have to reload them every time. So it does have a caching mechanism, but as soon as you exit the folder and you don't visit that folder for some time, it will just remove that index for that folder. I will also say that I prefetch a lot of stuff upfront. So, for example, when you're in a folder and it will already index the parent folder of that folder, and it will index all the folders that you have under your selection. So, and that also includes like things like thumbnails and subfolder stats. And so by the time you enter that folder, I will already have all the data. So ideally, I don't want a single frame I don't want a single frame to be wasted on displaying emptiness. Um, and actually, a lot of users notice this behavior quickly because there's no flickering. you just cruise. You just cruise. Like when you click the folder, like next frame, it will be there. Everything will be there. Also, at the moment, I don't store any index on the disk to be loaded on the next boot. I might add that option like in the future, especially for HDDs and network drives, where indexing can take more time.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay, I just said okay.
Okay.
So this is in memory then. All of the indexing is
everything
in
is in
memory,
memory.
and
Yeah,
it's cached during the lifetime of the program.
Yes, if you are viewing that folder, if you have it opened in some tab. As soon as you close it, it will keep it for a while, just in case you revisit it in like 1 minute. But after that, it will just evict it. Yeah. I also have something that's very specific to NTFS that I want to support in the future, and that's called master file table, MFT. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Nope.
So the programs like everything uses those. So it's actually, so it allows you to directly access the index of the file system, giving you much faster access to everything you need to know. So you don't have to call Windows API to retrieve files. You can just directly access the index of the whole disk.
Okay.
And that is specific to NTFS. Yeah.
Okay.
That's something I want to. And another thing that I will say that that's maybe specific to File Pilot is that I don't try to fetch all metadata for all. So metadata would be stuff like dates and sizes and stuff like that. And icons, thumbnails. I don't try to fetch all of them at once for all files in the folder. What I do here is I only do it in the background threads for files that are in the viewport. And so what that effectively gives you, it's efficiently streaming the data as you scroll instead of trying to load all up front, which some file explorers do. So if you open like huge folders in some file explorers, you will see a noticeable delay while they load everything. And I know that a couple of artists mentioned me this, especially for folders where you have a lot of videos or audio, and File Explorer will just it will like freeze there because it's trying to load all the metadata about music and videos on the same go, and that's just obviously wrong decision because user doesn't need all of that. It only needs the ones that it's seeing. Unless you are trying to sort by something like if you're trying to sort by, I don't know, some metadata from for audio, then okay, File Palette will retrieve everything, but it will still do it in separate threads, so it will not freeze the main UI.
Okay. How does the indexing work, and what is the index structure then for all the folders and files?
So it's actually not that complicated. So I call the Win API functions to retrieve me all files in the directory. So I store there's a small structure that has tightly packed data about files. So those would be the name, the size, the most important dates. What else? Some flags. Is it a system file? Is it a hidden file? And stuff like that. And so I put all those structs in one huge memory block. And you could have multiple those blocks connected to each other. So I will use a block size of, I don't know, 1 megabyte or 10 megabytes. And if index for the whole folder is bigger than that, I will just spawn a new block and I will connect it to the previous block. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. On the program side, I will usually have a separate list of references that point to each of those structs, and I will use those lists of relatively small structs. I will use those lists for sorting or for filtering and stuff like that. But the huge data is stored in a separate blob.
Okay. What happens if I, through other program, will modify a folder that is open in File Pilot.
So currently, File Pilot uses API from Windows that tracks any changes on folder it has opened. And actually, I will probably gonna move away from that because that API is taking a handle to that folder. I'm talking about Win32 handle, and that means if you have a folder open in File Pilot and you try to delete that folder from some other applications, it won't work. The Windows will tell you that the folder is used by another program. So I plan to move away from that. So what I will do instead, I will probably just monitor. You can monitor for single property of folder. When was the last time it was changed? If the folder was changed, then some contents were changed. And in that event, I will just reload the whole folder and I will merge the results with my old results. And so that way I won't keep any handles to that folder, and it will also work for any external changes. So if you change anything outside, and File Pilot will just detect that the folder has been changed and it will reload it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Generally speaking, direction of moving away from Windows API. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what are the features of File Pilot that common File Explorer user might not know about or might not think about?
So you mean like specifically for File Pilot?
File Pilot, yeah. So, for example, when I open up File Pilot, I would use this as a file explorer, right? And then see some things. But maybe there are features that would streamline my workflow and help me with all sorts of things that I don't know about.
Yeah, sure. So for starters, like there's a really fluid way of creating new panels, and you can split the current panel both vertically and horizontally, and you can drag them around, which is really nice, and you can create as many tabs in each of those. So I also tried to leverage this in the commands. So for instance, you can open any selection in new tab or in a new split, or you can quickly copy files between panels and stuff like that. So I tried to make it integrated in other aspects of the file explorer. So then there's fast searching, which again shouldn't be a separate feature, but it is. But even there, File Palette approaches searching a bit differently than most file managers. So instead of searching some generic term and then waiting for the results, you do something that I call expanding or flattening of the folder hierarchy. So what this does, it's essentially indexed all subfolders and subfiles in current folder and places them in one huge list. And it pretends like it's one folder. And once you have that, you can just use a regular filtering to search for anything. Like it happens live as you type. You doesn't have to wait each time when you enter some search term. You don't have to wait again for it to find the results.
Okay.
It's instant experience. And the really nice thing about that is because it integrates nicely with other features. So you can perform file operations like copying or deleting from that list, or you can even trigger batch renaming on files that are from different directories. Also, sometimes you just want to search for something by a thumbnail or by icon or something like that.
Oh.
So this view allows you that, because it just flattens the whole hierarchy and you can see all the files at once.
Okay.
It's really convenient way of searching and working with files.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another feature I plan to add to even further improve this workflow is I want to add better visualizations for such a flattened view. So I would like to add a tree view, which would help you track parent relationship. So you know how you have a regular tree view in File Explorer? Well, imagine that on the whole hierarchy of all folders.
Okay.
It would just be easier to check the relationship between files. Then I don't know if you ever used tools like Wistree or Windirstat. So those
When did it
tools,
start? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So these tools have like I don't know how to call that view.
Yeah.
It's I don't know how to call it, but it's essentially showing you all the files and folders in that on disk or in that folder, and they are grouped by their folder size. So you can quickly find which folders take the most amount of space
Like a
on your disk.
shaded rectangular view.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know how to call it. Size grid view, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to add that view to so you can uh, you know how you can at the moment you can like for each folder you can view it as a details or as a list or as a small icons or as a in a grid view in columns view. I want to add another view which is essentially that. So you can do it on every folder, not just disk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else? I have FilePal has built-in inspector. It currently supports images, texts, and other folders. And I plan to add more formats in the future. And there's even ongoing discussion about whether should I expose this feature to the plugin developers, because I probably will not find time to write a preview code for like every possible
Video
format out there. Yeah,
for
yeah,
video or audio. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, for video and audio, I will probably try to write myself because those are common ones. But for like specific formats that I never heard of and people need it, I should allow them to write it for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I already mentioned batch renaming, which is in my view extremely useful way of renaming multiple files. Uh, so
How
uh,
does this work for all the people that didn't use FilePilot?
so you select multiple files and you hit F2 or whichever hotkey you have for rename, and it's essentially starts rename mode for all files, not just for the first one. And so you have a cursor for each file that was selected. And when you move, if you move with your keys, it will move cursor for each file. And this is really, I don't know, it's really intuitive way because you can view changes as you type. You can also generate unique IDs for it, for each file or file dates or stuff like that. And actually, it's even cooler than that because each entry stores its own copy buffer. So you can copy and paste parts of each file name individually for each file. So it's really
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's really cool. Yeah,
You've put some love into this feature then.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All
I mean,
right.
this feature, batch naming, or however you want to call it, it's something that's actually been used in text editors for a long time. I think that Sublime was the first one that popularized that concept in the area of text editors,
Like multiple
and that's
cursors.
why I said that Sublime Text was one of the major inspirations for some of the UX I put in FilePilot.
Okay.
Yeah. Then I have something which I call GoTo, which is essentially a window that lets you quickly access recently accessed locations or system paths, and you can just start searching for them and it will find them. Uh, I also have a command palette. We already mentioned that. You can basically find any command that FilePilot supports, which is really nice. And you can assign any hotkey to any command.
And this is super cool, by the way. Like this, that like
Yeah,
every
yeah,
time when you show a command, you have show a hotkey, and then you can easily remap that. It's like you always know. And this is like
yeah.
this is such a missing feature for everybody who's like programmer, coding stuff, knows how these things works in text editors, and then go to the file editor, like file manager, and it's like missing. And this is so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. As I said, like Sublime Text had this in 2010, so it was 15 years ago. And yeah, some people are still catching up with those features, but it's really when I start some program and it doesn't have a global way of accessing all the features, it's like so limiting. It's obviously the way forward for UX.
Okay. How does the code for File Pilot itself look like? You mentioned that you like started to steer away from object-oriented code after Handmade Hero. I'm assuming this is this style. So can you elaborate on how do you write code in C, and do you have like your own layer of C? Like I think every C programmer has this like layer of C utils, like data structures or stuff like that you carry around.
So where to start here? So yeah, I wrote pretty much everything from scratch. I only use a couple of single header libraries, like I will use sprintf from Sean Barrett, and very very small header libraries which I don't have to write because someone wrote it for me. But I will be very very cautious about which one I include. So yeah, why build everything from scratch? Well, that idea originally came from watching the Handmade Hero, which I guess popularized it to some degree, and it's a way of developing software from the first principles. The whole idea is about trying to understand as much as possible of your tech stack, and trying to improve on existing solutions. So actually, a lot of people will criticize me for this, and they will tell like things like you are unnecessarily reinventing the wheel, and my response, like in present day, my response would be, can you just try File Pilot and tell me if this feels like nothing has been improved upon existing solutions? I mean, my product should speak for these words. So controlling every aspect of development yielded really some cool benefits for me. So which one should I start? I'll mention just a few. So my code base is relatively small, and that makes it easy to reason about and change, and it compiles in like 2 seconds. Like the whole code base from scratch compiles in 2 seconds, and which that allows me for very fast iterations. So whenever I want to try something new, I don't have to wait like 5 minutes for the whole project to recompile. And I think that's very important when you are developing something. You want to have a quick iteration. Also, since I control all the parts, there are no huge abstractions between my main systems. Um, uh, that allows me for them to be more tightly integrated. Um, for example, I will have quite efficient string storing and processing because I will store them on top of memory arenas, which are then also stored on top of my threads. So since I control all the systems, I can create a tight integrations between those systems, which is very important when you have like when you control all the systems, you don't have to pretend for some imaginary uh, uh, communication between those systems, because you know that you control all of them. Uh, what else? Another example would be tight integrations between my UI framework and the renderer beneath that UI framework. Stuff like that. So
Can you? I wanted to ask about this separately.
sure.
You needed to do like entire UI from scratch. So like every button, every rectangle was rendered. Like if you hover over, things change. Like for everybody who is like not from this world, like you usually pick up a library that does UI and you just never wonder about all these stuff. Like about like, oh, hovering over should modify the button. It looked like it's kind of up, and then you click it and it's kind of down. And it's like all sorts of like stuff that needs to go into. And here you needed to do this and then like render this through graphics API, like either OpenGL, DirectX or whatever. So did you do your like your first library and then like design system and then reuse this as components? Like how did you approach doing the UI for this?
Well, it's actually both. It's iterative process. So you mentioned UI. So the UI is probably I've probably rewritten UI once for sure, or maybe even twice during this project. So I started with a very very basic one, and it served me well for implementing all the basic features of File Explorer. And then after a year or so, I decided to scratch it and rewrite the whole UI again. This was the time. So I took maybe a week or two, and I was just exploring all the existing UIs there exist that are using immediate mode. And I also read a fair amount of source code from other UI developers. And this was also the time when Ryan Fleury came out with his series about UI. And so I just ended up using a fair amount of concept from his UI.
Okay.
And yeah, I think that was the right decision because now I control the whole UI, and it's really cool.
Okay. Okay. Nice. This
Yeah.
this rewrite, like, did you make, like, then if you do this, this is like a big change on a
Yeah.
on a code that is also huge, like code base that is huge. So when you approach this big changes, like not even refactorings, but like changes, do you keep this like higher level abstraction? Let's say you had a function for a button and then you replace the contents, or just scrap everything and just go with it until it will compile again and work?
Well, for this big rewrite, I literally scraped it. So I mean I had to rewrite the actual components of the UI, and then I had to rewrite all the usage code of that UI.
Yeah.
So that took maybe like 2 or 3 months. But in that process, I was improving every aspect of it. So I had so my first version of UI didn't even have like any advanced layouting or stuff like that. It was a very hard coded one, but it served me enough to experiment with the features I needed at that time. But as I was writing the new one, I just tried to improve it on every possible way I could. So it got a proper layouting. It got a much better input system, which allowed me for the cool stuff you mentioned, like is mouse over or not, and stuff like that. So yeah, now at this moment, I'm pretty satisfied with my current system,
Okay.
and I would probably reuse it very easily on my next project.
Okay.
Maybe I would have to tweak some stuff, but I mean it depends on the nature of the project. But if it was some like similar applications where you have buttons and text and stuff like that, I would probably be able to reuse most of it.
Which graphics API are you targeting?
I'm currently targeting OpenGL, which I'm honestly not sure why. Probably the only reason is because I had experience with OpenGL, and I had some code written for it when I started this. But I will actually be moving to DirectX soon because it has better support on Windows. But I don't think that writing OpenGL rendered was a waste of time, because I will probably be able to reuse it on Linux if I ever port there.
Yeah.
It will still be much more simpler than if I had to rewrite it in Vulkan or something like that, because Vulkan is like, yeah, I don't want to write Vulkan.
What about cross-platform? Like, what are your plans? Do you see yourself doing this for Linux or even macOS at some point, or not really?
Yeah, a lot of people actually ask me that, and yeah, I do plan to write for other operating systems, but only after I have a like really stable version of Windows. So Windows is let's say Windows is the primary target, because I think that most users will benefit from better file manager on Windows, and probably there's like the biggest market is here. I don't know what's the state of file managers in macOS, um, and I have some picture about file managers in Linux. I did try to use some of them. Uh, they are not in as bad shape as File Explorer on Windows. So I also know that Linux users are not that fond of purchasing something. They just want everything for free and open source. So I don't know how that will end up, but we'll see. Yeah,
And they use console if they are like programmers. They
yeah,
often
yeah,
use
yeah,
those
yeah,
terminals and get away without file managers explicitly. Can you
yeah.
tell me how do you use resources, like computer resources, in terms of like memory, caches of the processor, CPU in general, threads? Uh, do you use SIMD? Like how do you use resources efficiently for tasks that come with file pilot, like searching files, indexing them, stuff like that?
Okay, so I already tried to answer this to a couple of people, and the answer is actually quite simple. So the main source of I would say solid performance for file palette is something that Casey Muratori would call writing non-pessimized code. Uh, that just means you have to write a code that does only the task that it needs to done. It doesn't try to do all the other stuff. And you would think that like all people will tell you, yeah, that's exactly what we do. But the truth is, you're actually not. If you're using a lot of dependencies and other engines and frameworks, uh, you're actually demanding of users hardware to do much more work than it has to do. Um, Also, I will say that probably a huge part of it is the way I manage memory. So I will batch most of my allocations into large pools. I use memory arenas for that, and I will also use static allocations wherever it's applicable. And so this memory management model, it actually dictated how everything else in the system was built on top of it. So this includes strings and everything around it. Uh, so I think that thinking in terms of group lifetimes instead of individual objects was probably one of the most important lessons I picked up from Handmade Hero, and which I applied to this project. And the results are results are really great. Um, I also rely heavily on threading. So pretty much any larger work in File Pilot is offloaded to a separate threads. The only thing that's happening in the main thread is building the UI. Um, what else? I mean, when it comes to to actual optimizations, I only made like baby steps so far. So I hope I will have more time in the future. But what I did, I essentially ran a profiler and looked for the areas where the code was slow. And to my surprise, there weren't many of those since I wrote everything from scratch. So I don't use many hard-coded optimizations yet. I will use vectorized code in very few places. And yeah, I also use a lot of caching using various hash maps. So for instance, for icons and thumbnails and stuff like that. So for pretty much everything I fetch from the Windows, I will first time I will fetch it and then I will store it in some cache, so I don't have to access Windows API each time. Um, and I will then use some eviction scheme for clearing that cache when I don't need anything from it. So there are many systems, many similar systems in my program that work in that way. So I will fetch something from Windows, I will put my cache on top of it, and that will like speed up things a lot.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Nice. And I'm guessing hash maps are your custom data structures.
Yeah, actually, I think I forked the one from STB libraries from Sean Barrett, but I change a lot of it because I'm using it with memory arenas. I also wanted to use them with my own length-based strings. So there are a lot of stuff that I change, but I really like the core API of those hash maps and arrays because Sean is famous for making those APIs work reasonably well in the context of C, which is very old. So he will usually abuse a lot of macros in C to achieve a relatively clean API. So this was probably the most important part that I took from that code, but everything underneath is pretty much my own code. My own code.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
What were the difficult parts then of writing File Pilot?
Difficult parts. Well, I think I can confidently say that anything related to calling the to Windows and fetch some information from it, that's like that's where the real challenge lie. Because unfortunately, a lot of API is old and clunky, and I'm pretty sure that some of it was not designed to use it the way I use it. So yeah, the indexing part, which I explained earlier, that's probably the one that was quite easy for me. The functions for that is pretty straightforward. For file operations, I used the iFile operation API, which is also fairly simple. And I plan to move away from that because it's looking it's starting to look very old, especially on Windows 11. So I want to write my own code for copying and moving files. Thumbnails, they were also pretty straightforward, but I will say that Windows have like 5 or 6 different APIs just for fetching thumbnails. I don't know why, but it has. And none of that API is performant. So I always need to put some cache on top of that. Also, probably the funny part in the context of File Explorer is support for long paths. So even to this day, the default Windows installation is still reliant on the old maximum path length of what is it, 260 characters. So you have a couple of options to bypass that limitation, and all of those options are weird and has some quirks. And yeah, I ended up using in Windows 10 on certain version of Windows 10 and above, you can actually write a registry value to a user's machine, and it will support long paths, but it requires admin privileges. So I have that setting in options window in File Pilot. So those are long paths. And what else that's troubling? Yeah, so when it comes to Windows, like probably the two most awful APIs I've ever had a chance to work with is drag and drop and iContext menu. Like those two APIs, those are just beyond repair. Drag and drop is actually fairly stable right now in File Pilot. It will occasionally glitch with some preview images, but it works, so it's okay. Drag and drop is okay, but iContext menu, that's just the worst API I've ever have to work with.
This is when you right click?
Yeah, this is so this is for the right click menus.
Okay.
And I actually spoke with some other developers who have worked with it, and they will all say the same thing. Also, there's something very specific I'm doing it in File Pilot that's making it even harder than it already is, and that is I don't use when user right clicks in File Pilot, I will not call the system pop-up. I will actually only try to fetch items from it, and I will then render it in my own UI. And I wanted to do that to have a consistent UI, and I also wanted to improve some actions. So for instance, in File Pilot, you can search through all items in right-click context menu, which is really cool. You can also bookmark items to appear on the top. And what else? Yeah, I also wanted to plug in my own code. So since File Pilot has its own sorting and folder views and stuff like that, I wanted those my functions for File Pilot to be called when user clicks it. So basically, I had to render those pop-ups myself. Okay. And they actually made it even worse with Windows 11 because they introduced this new context menu. And now every time I introduce something in right-click context menu, I have to test specifically for Windows 10 and specifically for Windows 11. And it's such a, yeah. I don't know. I hope that at some point I will be able to invite some Win32 experts into my team just to help me iron out those bugs, because I have plenty of those. And I don't think I know alternative file manager that doesn't have some problem with that part. It's just bad. I will tell that at some point I had to start looking into old Windows Server leaked source code just to try to find some answers. Like you just can't find all the answers online for this. So yeah, I hope to find some people who will help, who will be able to help me with that in the future, and I will be ready to pay them for that, like big money. Yeah.
This platform is such a such a
Yeah,
marvel.
yeah.
Such a marvel. Uh, you said something that I think I didn't understand too well. You said that you want to replace the file API. I think you said iFile with your own implementation.
Yes, iFile operation. I use iFile operations for so for file operations that would be like copying files, moving files, deleting files, renaming files.
Okay,
Uh,
I
yeah,
to me this is like the most bare bone operations that you can have. So
yeah, yeah.
how much of the improvement or like both on the API level but also like on the implementation level can you get by re-implementing them yourself?
Well, the first thing I will gain is obviously a speed because I think that they are doing most of those operations in one thread. Um, the reason I didn't do this in the first place is because there are so many edge cases that copying a file on someone's disk can trigger. It's mind-boggling. So I just didn't want to handle all those cases for my first build because I had already so many other moving pieces that I needed to work reliably. I couldn't afford more time to do this part. But once I do, so the first thing that will be it will be better speed. The second thing I will probably be able to integrate it better into my own UI. So I will maybe I will have better ways of uh, displaying animations when items move and stuff like that. So at the moment I have to track changes on folder and reload the whole folder. If I do that operations from inside file pilot, I will have the complete control over that. Um, what else? A lot of people ask me about some uh, some more advanced stuff um, like syncing files and what else? There was uh, validating integrity of files. There's a huge pool of opportunity here, but
Okay.
I just couldn't squeeze that into the beta.
Okay. Okay. Who
Yeah,
is the author of iFile operations? Is it Microsoft? Is it Windows?
Microsoft. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
Windows again.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
That's Windows API.
Okay. I I okay. Uh, what are the fun parts? What are the fun parts of doing the development?
So pretty much everything else, everything else that's not that's not tied to the Windows, and I've probably chosen the wrong app for enjoying the program because File Explorer being core component of OS relies heavily on Windows. So yeah, so since I had a luxury of writing everything myself from scratch, there was also a lot of things that I did for did. There was a lot of things I wrote for the first time, and so it was a great learning experience for me. Um, if I had to pick one thing, it would probably be my own UI system because I always wanted to write my own immediate mode UI, and I just wanted to see how far could I push it. Um, I've used immediate mode UIs in other systems. I've used it in Unity. Um, I've tried using the ones implemented in C and C++, but I always wanted to write my own. Um, and yeah, so UI is probably the most satisfying parts, but everything else too, like writing my own strings code, writing my own threading code and platform code, like writing the whole system and putting the pieces in place for it to work like it works today. I mean, that was great learning experience for me.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Uh, do you use Visual Studio for the development?
No, 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 not actually. I try to keep it very simple. So I don't use any IDs because I think that most of them are sluggish, and I find it hard to tweak to my preferences. Also, I think that most of those use UIs that are cluttered with unnecessary information. So I'm more fond of like really simple text editors with very basic features. Like the only thing that I need is like syntax highlighting and jumping to definitions, and I can work with that. And Vim has served reasonably okay for this purpose. Before that, I used Sublime Text for years, for maybe 5-6 years before that. I use separate program for debugging. When I started this project, I was using RemedyBG, and today I will use both RemedyBG and RedDBG from Epic.
Rad debugger.
Yeah,
Okay.
Red Debugger. Yeah,
Okay.
the one that Ryan Fuller
works.
is working
Yes.
on. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I will also tell, because I know that a lot of young programmers today, since we live in this whole AI era, I will mention that I do use AI, but in very limited way. I will not use it to write my code, but I will just use it as a faster and more efficient Google. So when I search for some API, I will type it into ChatGPT. I will just ask him, like, give me all possible APIs I can use to achieve this and this. And when I get some results, I will usually go and read the official documentations on those APIs. And yeah, I will also sometimes ask it to write like really small code snippets for code samples that are messy or require some special syntax. But I will always validate all the parameters against the official docs. And so this very basic approach has served me fairly well so far.
Okay.
Yeah. One more thing I would say here. I found it very good for my workflow that I will occasionally just turn off the internet. Like I will literally unplug the cable, because we live in the age of so many distractions, and I sometimes find really hard to focus. And this is especially true today, because now I have a community and I have to communicate with them. And so what I will try to do, I will log in a couple of times a day, and I will try to answer as most questions as I can, and then I will just move myself from the internet and try to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you do this often? The unplugging?
But do I do this often?
Yes, unplugging of the internet.
Yeah, like almost every day.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So for how long do you unplug internet for? Like for how many hours?
For a few, until I finish some chunk of that I wanted to finish. So I will try to finish some features or bug fixes, and when I'm done, I will like plug myself again, and I will look for news. I will check Twitter. I will
Okay.
check Discord and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you lock the phone somewhere away from you as well.
Yeah. I turn off all notifications. I have most of the groups on Discord and WhatsApp and applications like that. I have most groups like muted anyway. So
Okay. Nice. When you said profiler, what profiler did you use? Frame Pro? What did you use?
No, I actually use Spol. This is a very small handmade profile, and it was written by Colin on the Handmade Network. And the reason, because I really like its simple UI, and it was very easy to integrate into my project. And yeah, so I was happy to pay for it and support another handmade project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And actually, I don't profile my code that often. There was certainly one period during development where I extensively profiled it, and I worked on improving those timings. But most of those improvements actually came from optimizing algorithms and like certain data texts and stuff like that. But since then, I don't usually use it that often. I will usually run it before each new release, just to check if I introduced like something that would increase execution time. I also shipped my build with profile a couple of times to some users just to debug some slow parts.
Okay.
But I will not do that often.
Okay. So you work in Vim, and you don't use LSP. You just have go to definition. So I'm assuming you're using CTAX.
Yeah, I'm using CTAX. Okay. And for C, it's actually I would argue that it's actually more reliable than any LSP. It just works for pretty much all the features in C I use. I use C11, and yeah, I didn't have any troubles with it so far.
Okay.
And I also use I also use results from the C tags in Vim to enrich my syntax highlighting. So I can highlight end classes and functions, macros, variables. I can pretty much highlight anything. So that's all I need. I just need syntax highlighting for easier read, and I need a feature to jump to the definition. I don't
Nice.
need anything more fancier than that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And for the debugger, both Rad debugger and Remedy, you need to have PDB files, right? And you need
Yeah.
from MSVC toolchain, you compile them, and then you have the PDB files that you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. This was action-packed. We've gone through 60 minutes, and then you speed run through all the questions. So much content within 60 minutes. Do you have any parting advice before we talk about the state of the file pilot and future? Do you have any advice for young people? You kind of mentioned
That's
this
a tough one.
with the internet, unplugging internet. I think this is already half of it.
Yeah, I think that turning off the internet is also advised. I picked up from Casey. I've picked up a lot of good stuff from him.
Okay.
And I also noticed that he turns off. I can see on Discord that he's not on Discord for the most of his time. So yeah, turning off the internet. I don't know. I just keep being curious and learn new stuff, and don't hope for AI to fix and do everything for you, because we need programmers that learn and understand the stuff. And I don't know. So even if you don't end up writing something that's commercially successful, just the process of learning and creating a product from start to finish, and it's such a rewarding experience. So when I started this, I told to myself, even if this fails commercially, I would have gained so much experience that it would be much easier for me to find job in the places where I would like to work. So I think it's just a net positive effect of writing something from scratch. I don't know. That's probably it. I don't know what else I would recommend to young people. Other than that,
Okay.
yeah.
It's interesting times. I thought about this recently, that you would expect going to work to be the most efficient way to prepare you for work, to learn stuff. And it kind of seems like going away from work and working on a personal project really deeply is much better approach. You don't learn that much during work, but
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
current
I was
times.
when I was in my old company, I was really trying to learn a lot of stuff, low level stuff, in my free time, and you can do that to some extent, but at some time it just, you are already pretty tired when you come home from your daily work, and you only have a couple of hours, and you also have other obligations. So it's only as much as you can do in your spare time. So yeah, when I started doing this full time, I actually how should I say this? Like people need to understand that even learning, even reading and learning from other materials is something that you should be doing in your work time, because that's also important. It's not only about typing the code. You don't have to type the code 8 hours a day. You also have to explore everything else. Sometimes you can skip a lot of typing by just exploring the existing solutions and stuff like that. So when I moved all this into my main work time, it was a lot easier to improve
Okay.
on this. Yeah.
Okay. So, what is the state of File Pilot now, and what are the plans for the future?
What are the plans for the future? So File Pilot is currently in free beta, so anyone can go and download it and try it. I have optional pre-orders. Those are available for those who want to support my project early, and it really means a lot to me because it allows me to continue working on this full time. up until now, I was spending my own resources, and so this means a lot to me. I think that the current build in beta is already fairly stable. But my plan for the beta is to fix the most crucial bugs and to add the most obvious missing features. That those would be like Unicode support and network support. And I will probably, in the process of that, I will also add a ton of low-hanging fruit, small features. After that, I'm heading for the version 1, so I can finally properly monetize on this, and I will probably even try to expanding my team just to speed up the development. I'm hoping to have the version 1 ready by the summer. So version 1 will be a fully paid program. It will have a free trial period. And you can already see packages and prices online, and those will probably not change. What else? I don't know. I can talk about my current pricing if you want, but yeah, I think that my licenses are super simple right now. I don't have any subscriptions or blocked features or anything like that. Like both licenses offer a fully perpetual all features, and they are valid per user for multiple devices. So they are pretty simple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I will put all the links in the description so that everybody who is interested will go directly there.
Thanks.
So, last question. You will be giving a talk on Better Software Conf. Do you know what will this talk be about?
I don't know. I have a couple topics. I might expand on the topic of what it's like to write everything from scratch, because obviously some people are wondering about that. But I would go into more technical details why I wrote everything from scratch and which gains I got from each systems that I wrote from scratch and stuff like that. I could talk about that probably. I could talk about some specific part about file managers like indexing, so stuff like we mentioned here, but in more detail. I'll see. I don't know. I could talk about UI, but Ryan would probably be a better candidate for that. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
Okay.
I will find something interesting. I hope.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Vjekoslav. This was super awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I will stop the recording.